See so many of you here. In a few minutes, my name is Henrik. Really happy to have so many of you here to celebrate this special day for us. In a few minutes, we'll have Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Victoria joining us. And the tradition in Sweden, in case you're not familiar, is that you stand up when she enters the room. And she will be coming out from in here and be seated here in the center. And when she's seated, you're of course welcome to sit down as well. And then when we end the seminar, I will ask you to stand up again so that the Crown Princess can leave the room. And then as soon as she has left, you're more than welcome to move out into the foyer here for some drinks and stuff. So as soon as possible, you would like to stay for us to spend some time relaxing after this. So carry on as you were, but in a few minutes I will ask you to stand up.
Able to afford.
Your Royal Highness, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, welcome to this inauguration of the Anthropocene Laboratory. I'm super excited to have you here. My name is Henrik Österblom, and I have the privilege and responsibility to make sure this is a success. So thank you for helping us with that. The inauguration will take place between 2:30 and 4 o'clock. And then I hope you will stay with us for some drinks afterwards. But first of all, I would like to ask Hans Ellegren, Secretary General of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, some welcoming words.
Your Royal Highness, members of the Academy, and ladies and gentlemen, I wish you, on behalf of the Academy, where you're very welcome to this fantastic hall, the Beijer Hall of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. We have localities that are newly renovated. I would also like to pay attention to the environment outside here. Very nicely, we are very glad to have financing from the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation for all the renovations outside here. Life has been present on Earth for nearly 4 billion years. And to help overview such an intangible amount of time, scientists often divide that time into periods or epochs based on geological or biological characteristics. For example, I think we all know about the Jurassic, the Cambrian periods. There were epochs like Pleistocene and Paleocene. And most of these periods have lasted for millions of years. They have been very long. The changes between periods have been very slow. But now, something is happening with an unprecedented speed. During a tiny amount of evolutionary time, humans have made such an immense impact on life on Earth that one can talk about a new epoch, the Anthropocene, the age of humans. In the last 100 years only, human activities have led to irreversible effects on climate and biodiversity. And these effects can be traced back to the enormous population expansion of humans, from 1.5 billion in the year 1900 to 8 billion now. That's an enormous expansion. And this expansion has come with significant socio-economic effects and an industrial revolution that has involved an overuse of fossil fuel. There is now an urgent need for changes in human lifestyle, changes that need to be based on scientific evidence and innovations. And for this to happen, there is a need for arenas or channels to connect scientists, policymakers, and decision makers to make a change. And that is what brings us here today, to officially inaugurate a new such arena, the Anthropocene Laboratory. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has a long and very strong tradition in engaging in the environment and in the nature. In the 1800s, the Academy initiated and hosted what later would come to be the Swedish Museum of Natural History, Naturhistoriska Riksmuseet, as well as SMHI, the Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute. These were founded by the Academy, and we ran them for a very long time. The Riksmuseet didn't become an independent unit until in the 1960s, in fact. In the very early years of the 1900s, the Nobel Prize laureate Svante Arrhenius became director of our Nobel Institute for Physical Chemistry. Arrhenius was the first to demonstrate that human-induced carbon dioxide emission rendered a greenhouse effect, and that could affect the global climate. He did that more than 100 years ago. I think it was actually 125 years ago. Still, we haven't really paid attention to that enough. Also in the early 1900s, the Academy was asked by the Swedish government to review the need for protection of certain areas in the country of biological importance. This led to that the Academy became responsible for the first national parks in Sweden, like Stora Sjöfallet and Gotska Sandön. We ran field stations for research and monitoring of the environment, like at Abisko and at Kristineberg close to Lysekil on the Swedish west coast. Later during the 20th century, and in the beginning of this century, the Academy has been a seedbed for emergence of several programs related to environmental issues and the sustainable use of natural resources. Of these, we are most proud of still seeing the Beijer Institute of Ecological Economics, hosted by Carl Folke here, connected to the Academy. That's sort of a flagship institute run by the Academy, or hosted by the Academy. In spring 2022, Kalle Folke and I came to discuss the need for a new initiative, an Anthropocene Laboratory. In such a laboratory, leading scientists would gather to collaborate and address major challenges facing humankind. The aim would be to meet an increasing demand for science in contributing to solutions and pathways towards sustainable futures. The aim would also be to contribute to fostering a new generation of scientists collaborating across scientific disciplines and geographical regions. Thanks to generous economical support from Miriam and Marcus Wallenberg and Marcus and Amalia Wallenberg Foundations, the Anthropocene Laboratory became a reality in 2023. It began by the recruitment of a director, Professor Henrik Österblom, and he has recently staffed the laboratory, and now is therefore time to officially mark the opening of the Academy's most recent initiative within the environmental sciences. During this inauguration, we have an exciting mixture of music, research presentations, and reflections on the Anthropocene. And by that, I wish you all welcome to the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences and to this inauguration ceremony. And by that, I leave the word to Henrik Österblom.
Thank you so much, Hans. Now we have a real treat for you. This is a short piece performed by Sofia Niklasson on soprano singer and Miriam Seltzer on harp. And it's a short piece that is a revision of a 12th century love song. It was originally a love song directed towards God. But I think it could also be a love song to anything you want it to be a love song to a loved one or for this planet. This piece is written by Jacob, and Jacob is a really bright, exciting composer who lives and works here in Stockholm, but who has his work performed in places like Carnegie Hall and Oslo Opera and also in London. And if you're not familiar with this work, if you think that you're more familiar and interested in contemporary music, you should know that Jacob also worked with Swedish House Mafia and Silvana Imam. So really, all the way from 12th century traditional folk music and songs to the most interesting hip-hop music in the city of Stockholm. So quite the breadth there. But with that, please, Sofia and Miriam. So I wanted to say a few words about the ambitions of the Anthropocene Laboratory and the method that we hope to employ over these few years. First of all, in case you are not familiar with the schedule for the day, you of course already heard Hans' introduction and this beautiful music piece. I'll give a short 10-minute presentation of the laboratory. This will be followed by a 1-minute, please stay in your seat, break for you to think about what you've heard so far, before moving into the next session where we have 3 shorter presentations from my colleagues and some of the ongoing work that we are just now starting up. This will be then followed by a short comments and reflection session where you're invited to provide any comments or ideas or suggestions you have. So we have a bit of time for that before moving into the reception. So the Anthropocene, Hans has already described, but why do we need an Anthropocene laboratory, and how did we arrive at the Anthropocene, this age dominated by humans? This is a picture from present-day Uganda, and it's generally believed that humans, our species, people that look like us and walk like us, originated somewhere around in this region in East Africa, about 300,000 years ago. Around 100,000 years or so, groups from this people started to move eastward and northward to populate places where they had not, where our species had not yet been. A lot of people went far east. They traveled across the Indian subcontinent, and around 50,000 years ago, or even before, the first humans arrived in Australia. Some went a bit further north and crossed what is now the Bering Strait and arrived at the southern tip of Latin America 15,000 years or so ago. And of course, between 10 to 5,000 years ago, humans in different parts of the world started to invent agriculture. We started to no longer just move around, but to stay in the same place, to farm, to develop institutions, laws, and written languages. So of course, humans have a long history of moving around and increasingly also influencing the climate and the ecosystems in which we lived. This impact and this influence has of course increased dramatically over the last 150, 250 years or so. And of course, during the last 50 years, 70 years, we have invented things that were completely unthinkable even 100 years ago, including weapons of mass destruction and French fries. So when it comes to weapons of mass destruction and the Anthropocene, scientists are, as Hans mentioned, looking for ways to define when and where we can define the Anthropocene. And hopefully this process will be concluded this year, actually. One of the strongest candidate sites is a lake called Lake Crawford in Ontario, in Canada, because in the lake sediments there, they have been able to track the spike in sort of nuclear downfall from the testing of nuclear weapon before the 1940s and 1960s. And you can also trace sort of fossil fuel emission from humanity and nitrogen emission from sort of increasing agriculture. So this lake is sort of includes a footprint of the starting point of sort of humanity, the age of humans. This is one of the first tests of an atomic bomb. It's the Trinity test. It was conducted almost 79 years ago. My dad was a toddler there. And you know, the world has changed quite dramatically. So when we think about the Anthropocene, it's easy to think about nuclear weapons and the impact that we have on the planet. To me, a better description of the Anthropocene is actually this bird. This is a bird that illustrates the interconnectivity of the planet. It's a herring gull. It's a lesser black-backed gull. It's called the Seltzer in Swedish, hence the confusion of the names. And this bird, this is a photo of a bird in Stockholm. And right now it is probably, or possibly at least, sitting on the shores of Lake Victoria in Uganda, getting ready for its migration north. Every year it flies down to Uganda, and every year it flies back up to the rooftops of Stockholm, where it does its best to steal your French fries. It used to live in the islands outside of Stockholm, but as a result of limited food or disturbance by tourism or introduced predators, and of course easier access to food in the city, it's now in the rooftops of the city anywhere. So you may know it as a bird that's just kind of annoying, but perhaps what you don't know is that when it leaves Uganda, it flies across through the Rift Valley where humans walked, and it flies north across the Red Sea. It flies across the Gaza Strip, and it flies across the Bosphore, where we now sort of divide east and west. Then it flies across the Ukraine, where young men and women die in the trenches, and then it flies across Poland, where war atrocities and histories can be sort of remembered. And then it flies across the Baltic Sea and the Russian oil tankers. It flies across the empty beaches where the kids are not yet having their summer ice creams. And then it lands in the city so it can lay eggs and have chicks and teach them how to steal your French fries. So this is an animal that really connects humans and our entire history, and it does so every year. And this animal does this trip for 30 years. So when you see a lesser blackback gull next time, remember that this is an animal that knows our history and the places we have been and the things that we are doing. Now, the Anthropocene Laboratory's primary goal is not to study seabirds, but it's really to understand this interconnected world that we live in, and as Hans said, to look for new kinds of solutions to these challenges. The vision of the laboratory is a revitalized Anthropocene biosphere. It's quite the mouthful, but if you let that sit a bit, I think it really signifies what our vision is. The mission, and I think I will let you read that yourself rather than me spelling it out to you. Leave you a few seconds to go through that. And yeah, this is kind of a big task that we have, and we're excited about having this task, and we're super excited to be able to work at the Academy with this. And I'm more than excited and very grateful that these incredible people have decided to do this work together. You will hear from a few of them shortly, but I would also really encourage you to meet with them and engage with them afterwards if you have the time. We're also very excited to have this very impressive and exciting scientific committee called Folke, as Hans mentioned, who has been leading the Bayer Institute for a very long time, is chairing the scientific committee, and Gretchen, who is in the room from Stanford, is also one of our key members, along with a number of really prominent natural and social scientists and people from the humanities who are helping us bring some of their networks into this work. We are located here in the 5th floor. See if I get this thing to work, the little pointer thing. So we are here. Oops, that was difficult. Oh, I should point here, right? That's where we are. Yeah. So if you walk out the door here and you look out the window, you will see this building to the left. So you know where we are. So what we really try to do is create a meeting place, a meeting place for exploration, for knowledge, and for action. And we really want it to feel like this open space in the forest, like a free space for thinking. Many scientists complain that there's really no time to think, and we want to try to create this space for thinking. If you're not able to visit us here in the building, feel free to have a look at our website. It's recently launched, and it contains lots of information and interesting images. You're also more than welcome to have a look at some of our reports that we have produced to date. This is a short booklet that we produced, a group of scientists and artists working together, trying to explore the relationship with the biosphere. This is available for download on our webpage, and there are also copies out there if you want to have a look at it. We're also very serious about not only connecting scientific disciplines, but really working closely together with the arts. For those of you who arrived a bit early, you were able to see a piece by Tone Bjordam, a Norwegian visual artist who we are happy to be collaborating with for the next 2 years. And we're also very excited about a partnership with Accelerator at Stockholm University, who has a long experience of working between scientists and artists, and they are also bridging a relationship with us, with a Stockholm-based artist duo, Goldin and Senneby, so we can really try to think together on how we can work together across scientists and art. So this is something that is recently agreed on, and something that's also, we're looking forward a lot to exploring that space together. Another thing that we're very happy about is the journal Ambio is a journal, a scientific peer-reviewed journal that is based here at the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. They have been around for more than 50 years. This is the front cover of their first issue. And together with the editor there, we've had a conversation about the need to explore new scientific spaces. This scientists working together across disciplines sometimes have a difficulty finding academic homes and places to publish their work. So that's why we're happy about Ambio giving us the space to have a special section there where we can really explore this space and publish possibly a bit unorthodox things, really focusing on the meetings between sciences and arts. And the preliminary title for this section is Testing 1-2, which we're quite happy about. Another really good reason for publishing in Ambio, in addition to it being at the Academy, is of course that this paper led by Carl Folke, Our Future in the Anthropocene Biosphere, that really provides a framing for the work in the laboratory, really a big picture description of where we are at and the challenges that we are facing and some of the opportunities in that. Yeah, with that, I would just like to express again thanks to our funders for providing this opportunity for us and also for the flexibility that you are providing us with. And my colleagues and I also would like to thank many of the people here at the Academy and elsewhere who has helped us during the first few months to get these things going and to get to where we are today, which is, I think, we've made quite a bit of progress. We ran a couple of workshops and we had first public seminar and now we're here today with all of you. So very excited about that. So yeah, that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Now I'm going to offer you a 1-minute break just to take a breath and think about whatever you want to think about. And you will do that in the company of a short visual representation from Tone Bjordam, the Norwegian artist.
This is more like crystal, right? Glowing, like ice glowing. Yeah. Looks like jellyfish too, or in this Indian festival, lotus.
Oh, this feeling, right? You're like, oh shit, I don't
Okay, break's over. All right, well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dianty Ningrum, who is one of the postdocs here at the Anthropocene Laboratory. We started here in September, and we've already made quite a bit of progress, so excited to hear about this. So, welcome.
Thank you. Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, my name is Dianty Ningrum, and I'm a postdoc here working on the empirics of H.R.H, one of the two topics we here at the Anthropocene Laboratory are working on. And I'm here to tell you a little bit more about what it is that we're working on here in the empirics of H.R.H. So I would like to start by sharing with you 7 interesting news or events or facts that I just learned recently. And I don't want you to do anything, just take them with you, and I will walk you through that. The first one, the amount of operating and planned coal plants fell in 2022 in both developed and developing countries, but outside China, as old pipelines are drying up and new ones, many of them are being cancelled. Climate litigation cases doubled worldwide since 2017, from about 800 something to 1,550 in 2022. And a lot of climate litigation cases being proposed by children and youth group, women's group, and indigenous groups are being pushed forward and help create many climate governance reform all around the world. Third one, the European Parliament recently approves a landmark law that prohibits greenwashing, and that means misleading environmental claims in products are now not allowed. A recent survey, the biggest of its kind, involving 23 countries, shows that the majority of the world wants immediate government actions on climate change. Next one, a few months ago, 27 governments worldwide, along with leaders of artificial intelligence companies, along with some interested parties, they meet to regulate artificial intelligence and the possible catastrophic risks that coming from them. An Arctic coal mine in Norway is being returned to nature in one of the country's biggest environmental restorations project. This is the last one. A network of indigenous, local, and farmer groups in Guatemala are coming together to develop agroeconomy schools to promote the ancestral practices and agroeconomy principles in everyday practices of economy. So those are the 7 things that I would like to share you. Now, I wonder here how many of us have follow-up questions or thoughts when you learn about them. Because when I learn about them, I have many follow-up thoughts and questions, such as, where are these events happening elsewhere? Who are the actors behind these events or changes? Are there pushbacks for these events or changes? Is there anything that we can do to invoke more of these changes happening in the future? So those events or changes that I share with you, they have the potential to be our reasons to be hopeful in the Anthropocenes. But many of them right now stays as anecdotes. They're scattered, maybe they're known on the surveys. And so our conversations about hope, about living in the Anthropocenes in a hopeful way, stays as rhetoric. So we think that gathering evidence and analyzing about these different changes and events happening around hope is a good start to invoke a more critical attention to important changes that are happening around us and to invoke more meaningful conversations about being hopeful in the Anthropocenes. And we think working on the empirics of hope is a good start to do that. Now, how are we going to do that is the questions, right? I want to walk you through that through talking about mushrooms, wild mushrooms. So here at the Anthropocene Laboratory, we like mushrooms. And I arrived here in Sweden 2 months ago, and I just found that that people here really like mushroom. I probably already have about more than 10 meals of mushrooms here with the people. So yeah, it's just a good thing to talk about. So when you walk in the forest, you probably know that there are some wild mushrooms around you, but you don't always notice them around you. Some of them perhaps are too small for you to notice. Some of them are covered by leaves and twigs. You may notice 1 or 2 of them, but what you do not notice is that they're being surrounded and supported by other mushrooms around them, like this. And there are many mushrooms. Some of us we know the names about, and some of the people who study mushrooms develop the skills and knowledge in knowing the names and knowing which one that are edible, knowing which one that are inedible, knowing the ones who we can use for culinary, for medicines, and which one are poisonous. So there are skills and knowledge developed behind knowing all of this. And we think those events or changes around us are a bit like those mushrooms. So by empirics of change, we want to noticing, gathering evidence, and also analyzing those important changes that happens around us in a more meaningful way. And how does that look like? So we're looking at trends of different of events happening over a certain period of time. We're looking at where they are invoking important changes in the society. We're possibly also looking at the actors and the skills, where they're happening. And we also look at how we trace their processes, and we look at how they're connected to each other, and possibly we'll look at the deeper level changes that exist among them. So those 7 changes that I shared with you at the beginning of my presentations could be also included in this empirics of changes, could be included as the changes that we observed in learning about the empirics of hope. They could include things like law and governance, innovations, social organizations, social movements, science and knowledge, many things that we're looking at in the world. So the idea is to look at really various domains in the world and looking at possible and important changes for us to be hopeful to live in the Anthropocene. So I want to show you a sample of work that we do. So this is a trends of cases in giving rights to nature. So we'll look at the data, and we see that since the 1850, more than 800 cases have been brought forward to give rights to nature. So the green one are the progress, and the red one are pushback. And actually, there are more progress than pushback. And we found out that 60% of the cases are located in America, or North and Latin America. Oh, sorry, that's, yeah, that's right, sorry. And 61% of the cases were initiated by only one actor, and actually government, civil society, NGO, and indigenous groups are the key actors here, as you can see. So that's a little bit of a snippet of the data we're looking at. Obviously, we're not only looking at law and governance and also rights of nature, but the plan is to look at many other domains and many other changes in the world. Now, how are we going to do that? It's a huge task, of course, but we have mobilized a scientific community here. Some of you are sitting here. 24 people from 14 institutions, which came from different parts of the world and which have different expertise in the topics related to living in the Anthropocene. So we're going to looking at different things, leveraging the expertise of these people. And we are really hoping that we can look at really important changes to see where hope really exists. So works are progressing, and we're really excited to do that. But we noticed that there could be mushrooms we do not notice, but you do, because this is such a huge task. So this is also an invitation from our side. If you notice some kind of these mushrooms that you think would be a good signs of hope, you reach out to us, you engage, and you perhaps an extensions of collaborations with us. We would really love that. And so I would like to end my presentations with the idea of this co-hoping. This is a word that we like. So the idea of being hopeful in the Anthropocene is not only noticing and gathering evidence and analyzing these changes that are happening all around us, but also to realize that these different changes are actually connected to each other, and we could actually make more of them and make more hopes by learning about hopes. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dianty. So the empirics of hope is one of the first topics that we started at Anthropocene Laboratory, and the second big topic that we're engaging with that we are just starting up is something we call the Intertwined Biosphere, and this is led by Chelsea, another postdoc at the laboratory. Please.
Thank you, Henrik. Your Royal Highness, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, also welcome on my behalf. I'm really honored to be here today and to be part of this initiative. Before starting my presentation, as we're at the lab, I actually would like to do a little bit of an experiment with you. It will only take like 10 minutes, a little bit of trust, but it won't take long. So, what I would like to ask you to do is sit in your chair, feel supported by the chair or the things underneath you, and focus on your breath. So only focus on just the rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. And you don't need to change your breath, but just focus on the breathing in and the breathing out. And maybe you notice your belly expanding or the release in your body by breathing out. Maybe you notice the quality of the air in the room. And now I would like to invite you gently to go back to the presentation, and that was it. Not that scary. The reason why I wanted to do this with you is to illustrate something, like to illustrate how we're all connected by breathing in the same air and breathing out the same air within this room, changing the composition of the air in this room. And in that sense, we're all connected here, but we of course all know that the composition of the air is also influenced by the plants, by the sea, by the world around us. So this is just one way to illustrate how we're intertwined in this biosphere. By being alive, we are intertwined. So that's what this project is about. It's about looking for connections, many more than connections, really this kind of, you cannot exist without the other. And to collect stories to foreground how humanity is embedded within this biosphere, within this collection of life. My name is Chelsea Kaandorp, as Henrik said. I'm the postdoc on this project. I'm, for more reasons, interested in this project. One of them is that we're really trying to bridge scientific disciplines. Myself, I did a master's degree in theoretical physics, which is of course kind of black hole physics, general relativity, very abstract, very mathematical. But then I switched to cultural anthropology, which is, in another sense, very empirical and very much focused on kind of human perspectives, power structures, and also multiple perspectives. And I think it would be very cool in this project too, that we're really trying to combine different perspectives and different ways of doing science, and I believe that it's very needed. Then we go to this slide. Very needed to develop ways of doing science, but also to communicate and acknowledge and activate people to do better and to foster living in dignity on this planet. On this picture, you see a lot. First of all, you see plastics. Only 7% of all the materials that's going into the economy is actually being recycled. That means that we're really depending on all the virgin materials in this world for our economy and running everything. And the reason why I'm telling this is not just a story of, oh, we're polluting everything and we're doing a bad job, but I also want to just stress how we're shaping the earth around us at a very large scale. If you would measure, if you would weigh all the materials, all these plastics, our buildings, our roads, we actually in mass have more than all the living things, all the animals, all the trees, all the birds. So more than 1.1 teraton in mass for what we make as human beings. So that's kind of, we're making a vast amount of materials. So we're shaping the earth. We're also shaping the composition of the things being alive on this planet. Science has measured or has estimated that only 6% of all the mammals on this planet is actually wild. That means that if you would sum up, weigh all the human beings on one scale, we actually weigh together 10 times more than all the wild mammals. And it is also because we just have so much livestock that we keep for eating and for wool and materials. To illustrate, like we have only 29% of all the birds, like that bird over there, is wild. The rest is poultry. So that just to illustrate that we're really shaping the composition of the world around us at this global scale, at the massive scale. And with this Intertwined Biosphere project, the idea is that if we have this more understanding of how intertwined we are, we can do better and we can support living in dignity. This is an example from the Netherlands. I like water and I'm from the Netherlands, so that's why. It's a project called Giving Space Back to the River. And of course, the Netherlands is known for its water management, but it was usually mostly management against the water. And now there's this project for working with the water, actually giving space to the river, giving opportunities for biodiversity, but also human recreation and living in well-being. So what we want to do is to redraw this picture of the intertwined biosphere, to imagine the intertwined biosphere as this layer around the earth in which we're embedded. We're really living in it. And you could say, simple, okay, done, we have a new image, fine. But what we're starting to do is now is kind of, okay, what does this mean? And what does it mean for new ways of doing science? And how could that work? And to be honest, this work, we're in the middle of it. We have our first workshop with some great minds. It's really very enjoyable. We're starting to figure this out. So I don't know where it will go yet, but I'm trusting the process, like you did with the breathing exercise. And I do have some ideas of how it could look like. So this is an example of the Kilimanjaro, which is known before its kind of disappearing of the glaciers, and as a symbol of global warming. And of course, to fight against global warming, there are a lot of decarbonization projects and reforestation projects. So there's this link with the glaciers and reforestation. And I went there as a master's student when I was doing anthropology to try to learn how people living there perceive these glaciers and the disappearing of these glaciers. And also they also linked it with trees because they experienced deforestation, higher temperatures, drier airs. So they actually had also a lot of projects to reforestate, to bring back those glaciers. And so that was when I was doing anthropology, so that was really more kind of a study on perspectives and meaning and how that drives actions. But it would be very cool to do that together with kind of more hydrological study, to really see kind of, okay, but what is actually the influence of the trees, and should you plant locally, or what is actually the influence of the Indian Ocean and then the humidity coming in? So to really combine more studies on perspectives with more studies on, okay, what is then physiological really happening? So that will be one idea. And like I said, we're having a workshop now. We're really shaping this project, and I would like to invite you to kind of also be involved and to share your thoughts, like Henrik said, and Dianty also kind of invited you to join our thoughts, join our paths on these projects, and be this open thinking space and experimenting space in order to find this new picture of the intertwined biosphere for ground human embeddedness in this biosphere, and in that way trying to foster ways for living in dignity and in well-being on this planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. And as you've now been introduced to our postdocs, you'll also be introduced to one of our mentors. So each postdoc has 2 mentors, and one of those is Peter Søgaard Jørgensen, who will tell you a little bit of a study that he has led with several colleagues, also mentors at the laboratory for a few years, but that was published only last year, or early this year. Last year, yeah. Please.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends. So the title of my presentation is entitled Breaking Anthropocene Traps. And during this talk, I will introduce you to 2 forms of trap. And since it's good to look inwards first, I thought I would start with maybe the most difficult for us scientists. And I call it the, oops, let's see. That's okay. I call it the science trap. And it describes the risk that science becomes so specialized in answering specific questions, but loses the ability to connect across fields and traditions of study to answer more complex questions like the ones we're facing, the challenges we're facing in the Anthropocene. And so I thought I would give you a picture of the Anthropocene planet, the human planet that we're living on, and some of these fields that we need to connect across at the laboratory as well. So if you look at this piece of art that was floating around in London, and you look at so that's the planet there, you see the living and the non-living, of course. We're used to that, seeing the green and the blue, maybe the physical processes, combining to shape the self-regulating climate system that we have. But now in the Anthropocene, these are not the driving forces anymore. The driving forces you see around the planet. You see the social, so the way we connect with each other, what we imagine collectively and individually, and what we make, so the build or the made, the technology. So these 4 domains are crucial for us to be able to connect if we're to understand where we're going in the Anthropocene. But we're really grappling with it. So to try and break through this trap, we organized, there it was. We organized a special issue from 2021 to 2023. Over 3 years, we invited 18 teams of interdisciplinary scientists consisting of natural and social sciences and humanities. each contributing their own piece of the puzzle in understanding how the Anthropocene has evolved, what are the current dynamics characterizing it, and what might be future opportunities for sustainability. There are a couple of copies of this issue out there, so if you want to browse through. But today I'm just going to talk about one of the articles in there. And that leads me to introduce the second trap, and I really hope it's going to show up. There we go. So the evolutionary trap. You can think about the evolutionary trap really as a way to explain how self-defeating or undermining behaviors can arise. Right? And that's our biggest worry in sustainability, that we're undermining the opportunities for present and future generations and co-inhabitants, not only humans. And so let me walk you through this, how these evolutionary traps work, through a couple of examples. So here you see a number of different animals. They all share the thing that they either are or have been exposed to novelty in their environment. And novelty that has an important characteristic, novelty that mimics a cue that they evolved with in their old environment, but that is fooling them. So whether it's albatrosses not being able to separate plankton from plastics, insects confusing human lights with the lights of the stars and the moon, or a frog eating a lead light because it was hungry for fireflies. There are many, many examples of these. But no one has tried to apply this concept to us in the Anthropocene. And that's what we try to do here. And so, of course, here are some of the global challenges we're facing, some of the novelty. But if we are to apply this, okay, what are the behavioral cues that we're confusing, the old and the new? Well, we think we have found at least four of these. So 4 types of what we call Anthropocene traps. And the cues are going from being a species that have always been able to expand, now living in the reality of that we're actually on one planet. The second is going from a species with relatively simple technology, now having highly advanced and complex technology that can ultimately undermine our own species. And the last 2 ones relate to the rate of change we're seeing in the planet today and how connected we are. So both at unprecedented levels. So I'm going to walk you through a number of examples of these traps. We apply the model, we see them developing through 4 phases. So, which of increasing sort of concern. And if you want to follow along, you can look at this figure here. It's going to appear on the examples to see sort of how we assessed it. But I don't have time to go into the details. And we looked at the period of the last 3 decades to try and gather evidence on where we think we might be in this, in terms of how trapped we are. So here we have the basic cycle of how humans have expanded and grown. Our ability to specialize enables us to have more efficient processes that enables growth. But of course, growth also leads to resource needs, new resource needs, that we then either address through cooperating or conflict, or innovation, which I'm going to come back to. But this leads to a self-reinforcing cycle. But at the planetary scale, if we keep operating like we're still on a planet where we can expand, we risk running into these 5 traps. So an oversimplified planet that is vulnerable to any disturbance, global inequality that undermines well-being for everyone, overshoot of the Holocene conditions that allowed us to build complex societies, global division that prevents collective action, and oops, there you go. Our trade and travel system being vulnerable to shocks spreading like contagiously, as we can think about with the pandemic. So getting back to innovation, here's a very simple loop of how scholars think about technology evolving. Basically through a self-reinforcing process of increasing complexity, allowing new types of innovation. But also technology having unintended consequences that we often address through new innovations. So when we let this cycle run, we go from having very simple technology to increasing complex and advanced technology. And you can see this manifest in 5 forms of what we call technology traps. Henrik already showed you the famous picture of the Trinity test, and that might be the most obvious for many. But there are more subtle and perhaps more important and equally important challenges today. And that's the challenge of having highly complex infrastructure that prevents us from changing from one technology to another. Chemical pollution that is so complex that we don't realize about its unintended consequences before it's too late to do anything about it. And then finally, over here, 2 that are getting a lot of attention these years. Of course, increasing autonomy of technology. So you can think about robotics, AI, and ultimately, potentially running out of our control. And of course, our information technology. So being able to spread information at such rates and at such ease that we're no longer able to separate noise from signal or truth from fact. So those are those 5. Finally, relating to the rates of change and global connectivity. So the rate of change we've lived through in the Great Acceleration and are still living through, we see the main trap here being the risk of short-termism. That we're paying so much attention to what's changing fast that we're losing sight of the long-term baseline that we need to protect. And in terms of our highly connected global societies, we can now live an entire life without being exposed to the living planet itself, which runs the risk of biosphere disconnect. And also that means we don't always see the consequences of environmental harm, which can reinforce patterns of overconsumption. The last one might be a bit counterintuitive, but actually because we're so globally connected, we're often interacting less with our local communities. And that means that we might lose local social capital and see polarization. Okay, so I know that was a lot to take in, a lot of information. I just have one more piece of information to add to this, and that's in about half of the cases, if you think about these traps interacting, these traps, most of the time, reinforce each other. So if you have change in one place, something getting worse, that usually leads to one of the others getting worse. So that's the real big challenge. Now I want to end on a hopeful trajectory here. So thinking about Dianty here, and making her work easier. But I actually do think her work is made easier by this sort of work, and that's because any sort of deliberate transformation to sustainability starts with a sense-making process. And you can think about this as a sense-making process. We need to understand what are the risks and what are the capacities we need to have to navigate this Anthropocene strait, as it's called here. So yeah, the sense-making capacity is one in itself. But so what I want to highlight a couple of capacities just based on what I've talked about today, and that's the capacity to bridge divides is one that we see can really enable progress on a lot of these issues. Another one is the ability to reorganize and have technology that is not too rigid. So when we are faced with surprising circumstances and we need to change, it doesn't hinder us. And the last one is innovation that is aligned with the biosphere and local livelihoods, which one component of that is being able to design processes or environments that have these behavioral cues that actually aligns with sustainable behaviors, right? And I will just invite you to think about what those cues might be in this case. Yeah. So that was my hopeful ending. So thank you.
Chelsea and Dianty as well. Thank you so much. So those were 3 short presentations on recently completed or recently started or ongoing work. And we're, again, only getting going, and we're excited about the opportunities that we have, in part as a result of being here at the Academy. We have been really fortunate to be able to invite really exciting scholars, and they have been wanting to come work with us. So we're basically building a community around these 2 major topics, and again, would like to invite you to participate if this is something that's of interest to you. Okay, with that, I'd like to hand over to Kayoko for a short session with some comments and reflections. So if you have any questions, think about what those could be, and if you have them, present yourself and ask us the question, please. But Kayoko will lead you through this.
Thank you, Henrik. Your Royal Highness, colleagues and friends, my name is Kayoko Kumasaka. I'm the Activities Coordinator of the Anthropocene Laboratory. In the previous sessions, we introduced the Academy as a backbone, and the Anthropocene Laboratory's vision, its missions, its plans, people, the 2 research subjects, and some exciting research findings. In this session, we want to shift the focus to you. But before that, let me share some important information. Oh, sorry. This program will close at 4 sharp. That means we have, about 20 minutes. And as the time is limited, I want to introduce other ways to communicate with us. The first one is our new website, anthropocenelab.se. You can find a contact form through About Us. We also created the LinkedIn page last week. It's so new and there are no posts yet, but we have got 1 follower. Thank you, Sarah. For this event, we have a feedback form. You can find a QR code in the lobby on the electric whiteboard near the main exit entrance. And we also have a guest book in the lobby. There are many beautiful stamps and colorful pens, and I'm sure you will enjoy exploring your creativity. And of course, you are welcome to come and talk to us. But if you, we hope that the lab will become a meeting place for people with diverse background and knowledge, join in respectful dialogue, work together, and find new pathways for sustainability. And in this session, if you want to share your thoughts with us in this room, I will ask you to raise your hands. In this hall, there are microphones on the ceiling, so you will not be given a handheld microphone. When you are called on, please stand up, and before you give your questions or comments, please start by telling your name and organization. And please, the floor is yours. Gentleman over there.
Thank you. I saw no other hands raised, so I take the opportunity. I'm Jonas Ederson, Professor of Environmental Law, former Dean at the Law Faculty, and also the Director of Stockholm Environmental Law and Policy Center. And not least in this context, and I'm very proud to see what my colleagues at the Resilience Center have achieved. I should say I have had the pleasure of working with Resilience for the now more than 15 years, I think, since this year inauguration. And I should just say that from the law community, these ideas that you bring in are extremely important. There is huge discussion among environmental lawyers around the world about concepts that have been not developed only here, but where the Resilience Center and the EU Academy of Science has been critical, has really entered into the legal discussion about planetary boundaries, about the resilience, and now the Anthropocene also. So essentially, this is all to congratulate you. Henrik, you are excused from having omitted law in the mission, but we take that as part of social science, and I hope that you will revise that in the future. We have quite a few students here in the International Master Program of Environmental Law, where we discuss these things. So I think really, I just want to say, in addition to congratulating you, that what you do here in this creative environment is essential for the legal discourse around the world. So just to thank you for that, and to let you know that lawyers see you. Thank you.
Who's next? Ingrid?
Okay. Right. Ingrid Sundström, I'm the Executive Director of the two foundations that are supporting this very important initiative. And of course I want to congratulate you, because when we received the applications 2 years almost for now, it was very new for us. These two foundations are focusing on basic research in social sciences and humanities. And of course, we include law. And we reviewed the application, and it was very new, and quite a few question marks as well. But I'm very happy to be here today, and I've listened to this, and earlier also talking to Henrik. I'm sure this will contribute to society with your findings, and we are very much looking forward to follow this very closely.
Gretchen?
Hi everybody. My name is Gretchen Bailey. I'm based at Stanford University in California, and I feel my whole life has been shaped by making a connection here early on that I was very fortunate to make, just kind of by chance as far as I can tell, though maybe somebody has a deeper theory. But I was brought here by my mentor back in 1992, some months before I even had my doctoral degree. And it was to join Nobel laureates in economics together with just boisterous ecologists who didn't have a Nobel Prize, but a lot of energy. And the idea was to forge new ways of thinking about valuing nature. And based on those ideas, based on kind of the energy and the friendship developed in plenty of workshops that started just like this Anthropocene Laboratory really is starting back with the Bayer Institute, to give just a personal example. Basically, everything I've done has been really connected to forging ahead with the collective mission that people in the group that grew and changed over the years held together. And I feel that really speaks to some of the magic in terms of the power and influence of Stockholm, of this academy globally. I think the ideas that have come from thousands of people who've now been directly influenced by activities here, just in this one realm that I'm sharing in a personal way. They extend to billions of people on the planet. Obviously, we have a long way to go, but I don't know any other place that has this magic, really. And I'll add one other taste of the magic. A lot of the workshops have been held on the island of Askö, where not only are you thrown out there in kind of a rustic setting at a field station, you really reconnect in all these basic ways. I feel we get layered in literal layers that make for a bit of a barrier with what would have been normal human experience over the many, many, many generations of people since the beginning of humanity that Henrik opened up with. And yeah, you're not only encouraged, you're basically told you're gonna sing, you're gonna dance, maybe you're even gonna swim in the Baltic. And all of that just activates a lot of ways of connecting with nature, with the ideas, with people, and feeling a sense of belonging in a bigger community, working together, then going home, all our different parts of the world to help in a little way drive forward. So massive thanks to the opportunity opened up here.
We have a request.
Hi, I'm Wendy Borgate. I'm the Global Hub Director of Future Earth, based just upstairs from the Anthropocene Laboratory. And I would like to congratulate you on what you've pulled together here, the exciting team and the really great connection between our Anthropocene science, the behavioral change, and the arts, that we really, really need this work. I just wanted to draw attention to the auspicious offices that you have. You showed the offices there on the 5th floor of the tower, Henrik. Those are the offices of where much of the, you could call it the headquarters of the development of the Anthropocene concept. The Royal Swedish Academy hosted the International Geosphere Biosphere program from 1989 through to 2015 on that very floor. My dear friend and colleague and former colleague to many of us here, Will Steffen, led that program for about 6 years, or in early 2000, when we did a global synthesis which actually resulted in the development of the Anthropocene concept. And many people in this room were participating in that global initiative. That initiative merged into Future Earth in 2015, and we sit on the offices directly above the Anthropocene Lab, and we're delighted to be able to work with you going forward. We also have the safe and just concepts that we're working towards, and we extend our arms to collaborate with you going forward. But thanks for this really exciting work you've laid out. It's really needed.
Hey, everybody. Hi, my name is Scott Kaandorp. I'm like Gretchen. I'm from Stanford University, and I'm the Senior Associate Dean in the new Doerr School for Sustainability. And I wanted to give you just a brief on the Doerr School, not to give you really a brief on it, but to then link it to the Anthropocene Lab. So the Doerr School was started in September of 2022, so just a little over a year and a half ago. And the mission for us was to bring together people that were studying the biophysical sciences, the engineering aspects, and then also the social and humanities, to think about how we could embrace the collective knowledge that we would bring to take on some of the biggest challenges we have here in the 21st century, and really thinking about how do we sustain nature and humans together. So if that sounds a little bit like the Anthropocene Lab, it should. So I think there's a lot of commonality that we have, and I really want to congratulate the lab on such an amazing start. Gretchen and I here have been here for a couple of days now on a workshop, and it's just been marvelous to see the energy and the creativity that's in there. It's really inspiring for us, and we look forward to a long, hopeful, productive collaboration with all of you. So congratulations, and it's really exciting to see.
Thank you so much. My name is Cecilia Wikström. I'm the CEO for the Bayer Foundation, and we are happy to have funded the Bayer Institute for this year 49 years. So to see this achievement today is to me a great pure joy, and it feels like, you know, the other day I read a poem by a Greek poet. He was based in Paris during the Second World War, and he wrote, "In days of darkness, we need to bring light, and even more light His name was Nikos Kazantzakis, and I think that what you are doing here is to bring light, not only to society and to the scientific community, but also to each and every one of us to having the privilege of being here and sharing this moment. What we need to see today is hope and light. And thank you. I anticipate the day when we will even more see light and hope. Congratulations to a fantastic initiative.
Thank you very much. Great introduction and a great initiative. My name is Peter Normark. I'm the Academy Secretary General of the Academy for Agriculture and Forestry in Sweden. In our minds, this is very much the topics and the issues that are central for our field. We're working with the green industries, we're working with the blue industries. And we have an academy that consists of both fellows from science, but also fellows from practice. That is people from public administration, people from the industries and so on. We see this is just a great initiative, and we invite you to collaborate with us. We are doing a lot of seminars, and if you want to meet people from our industries, you are most welcome, and very much good luck to you in your future work. Thank you.
Yes, so I'm Lisa Schultz, Deputy Director of the Stockholm Resilience Center, and also want to, of course, congratulate you on this wonderful new initiative. Looking forward to collaborations, specifically just because you asked for empirics of hopes, you know, what initiatives can we draw on there, what other suggestions, and we have colleagues at the Stockholm Resilience Center have worked on for quite some years now a project called The Seeds of a Good Anthropocene, where they've collected seeds from all over the world, which I think are empirics of hope and these mushrooms that you described. So that's a nice starting point, and I'm sure there are many more connections we share, of course, a lot of intellectual history together. So good luck, keep in touch, and thanks for making this happen.
I'm a bit intimidated, I have to say. So my name is Bernice. I'm a former master's student at the Stockholm Resilience Center, and I'm also an entrepreneur. And when I hear that there is so much focus on art and connection, I can't prevent myself from speaking about it, because I think it's really important to appreciate art, but it's also important to take part of the artistic process and to create. And so it's amazing that you are going on an island to make art together, to connecting, to have a good time. But I think there is really something to do here in this amazing space. It's so beautiful. It has been shaped in such of an artistic way. And I would love to have actually the chance to facilitate some artistic experience here in KBA. And I don't know, I just like helping to connect, to connect people together through making art, and also being inspired by artists that have been like really innovating, that have been showing so much resilience, facing like uncertainties and like health problems. I'm thinking about Henri Matisse, for instance, or like Vasily Kandinsky, or Hilma af Klint, Yayoi Kusama. I mean, so many of them have been showing just great resilience, capacity to go against status quo, to not take care of the judgment, and to innovate. So, thank you so much for inviting me, and I really hope to come back here and to make art with you guys.
your regard. Do you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, my name is Richard Julen. I'm the artistic director of Accelerator that was mentioned earlier in the presentations here. And speaking of which, that is actually happening here. I'm just going to briefly introduce Accelerator to you, but as Henrik mentioned, art is being introduced here at the Anthropocene Lab together with us at Accelerator. We are the contemporary art exhibition space of the Stockholm University. We're actually also neighbors. It's by foot 3 minutes from here, just on the other side of the road outside. And our task is to make art, societal issues, and science meet. We're fairly young. We opened in 2019, so we've been around for 4 years. We're up to our kind of 12th exhibition of contemporary art at present. And we, on the side of these exhibitions that are open to the public and it's free, we always ask artists what their interests are, what burning current issues that they are interested in, and that we match them with researchers at the university or in other places. We've been in contact with Henrik Österblom for quite some time now, and Henrik had this vision and also the good taste of getting in contact with us for us to suggest artists to work with you here. And so the first artists that we've introduced, and we kind of had a kickoff here last week with the artist duo Golden Senneby, who happen to be sitting here. Senneby are here. We were here with group and met all of you guys and had a really nice start and discussion that will develop over time in the next couple of months. And the idea is to experiment with this. Accelerator is an experimental venue, so, which means all of you know here that we're also open to failure. We, after this, will integrate whatever happens here into an exhibition with Jakob or Simon that opens in the spring of 25 at Accelerator. So we're hoping for some synergies there, that whatever happens here can go public in our space, because we are a public space open to everyone. I'm going to take this brief opportunity and also say, because we're so close by, that we have a great restaurant. Sustainable food, no animals killed. But in any case, thank you. This has been a lovely moment.
We have maybe one last comment if you'd like to mention. Last chance. Then I'd like to give the floor to him.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, that kind of concludes our inauguration. So that's the end of the beginning, as they say. So, Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for taking time to visit us and spend time with us this afternoon. Really appreciate your time here. And with that, could I just ask all of you to stand up, please? Well, thank you again, and I hope to see as many as possible of you out there for some drinks and snacks. So thank you, and thanks to my colleagues and for our musicians and for everyone for a really nice presentation. Very much appreciated. Thank you.